Hi, me again. We're back again for another lesson in art. This will be lesson 4. And thank you for taking the time to view the lesson. My studio, which is my basement, my man cave. In lesson 1, we talked about creating a color wheel, developing that, learning how to use 3 primary colors and create 3 secondary colors, which are their complementary colors. In lesson 2, we worked on creating a tone scale, and this is fundamental to really helping us with understanding drawing. To understand, to do good drawing, you need to be able to have different tones in your drawing and shading, light and dark. And then in lesson 3, we talked about further exploring our color palette, how we could use the same 3 primary colors and continue to mix them down and build a color palette. And so those are all lessons that we had that will help lead us up into painting. But before we get started in painting, we need to work with some drawing, because drawing is the foundation for painting. Good drawing technique, good drawing skills will help you to understand really how to paint better. So we're going to work with some drawing exercises, and this will be a simple drawing lesson. You can see this book that I have here, and there's some drawings in this book that are just simple things like dollar bills crumpled up, cans that are dented, tin foil. You can draw anything that you want to draw, and the point is not that you're creating something beautiful, but that you're learning to draw representationally. So anyway, that is coming from this book, Keys to Drawing with Imagination. But if you're a kid, if you're kids, how many of you kids like to draw? You all like to draw. And what you like to draw is what's in your mind. You like to imagine things and draw things from your mind, which is a great thing. You're being very, very creative. But the ability to draw things from your mind with skill comes from learning to draw things that you actually see and not just things that you imagine. Once you can learn to draw things that you actually see, your drawing with imagination will become much, much better. So it's like music. You know, a musician can just, maybe he has talent and he could just pick up an instrument and fool around with it and figure out a song and improvise and play the music just because he hears it in his head and he learns to play it on the instrument. But the strength of all real good musicianship comes from learning to read music first. So, for instance, all the great jazz players, you know, they could read music and they could write music and they can compose songs. And if you wanted to get a job in a big band, you had to know how to read music. But at the same time, when they did a solo, they would improvise. They would play what they thought, play what was in their head. And they did it beautifully. And it became a beautiful music called jazz. But the strength to be able to play what you imagined came from studying music first by learning to read music. And so when we draw things that are real, we are working with what's called representational art. We're trying to represent what we see as accurately as we can. And we're going to start today with a simple line drawing. We can expand these lessons further with drawing and learning how to shade and tone, but today we want to just work with simple shapes. I want you to understand how shapes work. Now you can copy what you see here. I've got set up here. These are 4 shapes. We're going to look at these as shapes. I don't care about the color. I don't care about the print on the cans. All I really want to do is to look at the shapes, and we're going to study how to duplicate those shapes. And we want to learn how to keep things in proportion, to keep it in perspective and to keep it in proportion. Now you can do this, or you can get anything from your own home that you want to set up, and you can do this as often as you want with as many things as you want. Just find some things and set them up and work at drawing shapes. So today we're going to work with line drawings, and we're just going to work with simple shape drawings, and we're going to discuss how we can position them together on the paper so that it all reads like what we see. All right, so I have a pencil set here, and in one of the last lessons we talked about, in the lesson on tone, we talked about pencils, and these pencils are in different tones, and I have my pencils set up in the order of the tone value. So my first pencil here, and you remember we talked about pencils that were H pencils. This is a 4H. H stands for hard. So this is going to give me a nice light line, and then I have a 2H, which is darker. I have an F, which is somewhere between the H and the B's. I have an HB, which is a little darker than the F. And then I started the B's, and the B's are denser. They're harder. I have a 2B. I have a 2B, a 3B, a 4B, and an 8B over here. An 8B, that's a really heavy, dark one. You can see I've used that one a lot to make really dark marks on my paper. All right, so you understand about pencils. But maybe all you have is just, something from your school pencils here. So this is an HB. It's just like a school pencil. This is a number 2 pencil. Whatever you have will work for this lesson, so don't worry about it. I just wanted to explain about drawing pencils and their density. So we're going to do a linear drawing today, and this is called Representational Art. And so for this, I'm going to choose a B, which is right somewhere in the middle of my collection of pencils. I think I'm going to go with the 8B because I think you will be able to see what I'm doing better on the paper. All right. Now, when we do a line drawing, you don't have to worry about making everything perfect in one line. So an artist will sketch things, and sketch marks are often just simple little strokes. So I want to pick a perspective, and I want to start with one shape. I'm going to start with the shape that's right in the middle. I want to start with the round shape there in the middle. All right. Now, there is a way to duplicate in size and proportion what you actually see. And it's simple. If you were painting and you would hold up a paintbrush, you can do it with a paintbrush, or you could hold up a pencil and do it with a pencil. You would hold the pencil out, squint one eye, and you would see on your pencil where the top and where the bottom of that object is on your pencil. You could even do something like this. Hold your hand here and hold your hand here. And that would tell you accurately if you were trying to duplicate exactly what you see, what you would do, you could put it on the paper. But I'm not going to be concerned with that right now because we're just learning to experiment with art. So what I want to do is I want to draw. I'm going to start with my circle. Now, I also want to tell you something about composing your painting or your picture. You never, ever want to put everything right in the center of your paper. There's something called the rule of thirds. And there's other rules called the golden rule. And the rule of thirds is you want to divide your space into 3 and slightly off center your work or your drawing. And so I could slightly off center it to the left, looking at the slope or the curve or the overall curve of those objects, and say I want it to be here on the left and I want it to sort of curve down this way. Or I could put it over more to the right and say I want it to build up this way. But I think it'd be more interesting if I start over here to the left a little bit and build my drawing over this way. The reason why you don't ever want to put your drawing right in the center is because it becomes static and it loses interest to the eye. So when somebody looks at a painting or drawing, if everything is right dead in the center, you look right at the center and then you walk away. You saw it, you looked away. But if you put it off center a little bit, what you do is you create movement within your canvas. You create movement within your drawing surface. And the eye wants to start here and it looks at that and then it moves through your drawing or through your painting and it moves around. And so your painting or your drawing becomes more dynamic if it's more visually interesting. So we're gonna off center a little bit. So there's my paper here. I'm going to put a little light line right here and just a where I can barely see it. So that's going to be my center line. Actually, I'm going to move it over just maybe an inch. That's going to be my center line. Now, I'm not worried about having all these extra marks on my paper because I have erasers and I can clean my drawing up afterwards as I like. So I want to, as I said, I want to start with the circle. All right, so I'm going to somewhere on the paper, I want to locate the bottom of that circle. I'm just going to make a little mark there, and that's where I'm going to see the bottom. And now I'm going to just lightly, gesturally draw in very lightly a circle shape. Okay, and you have all these little sketch marks. You don't worry about the sketch marks because you're going to create a stronger line over that when you get ready to finish, and then you can always go back into your drawing and you can clean things up. So now I kind of know where my circle is going to be. That's the center of my drawing. Now I want to look very carefully, and I think I'll start over here with this square shape. This box is a square shape. We're not worried about the colors or the writing on the box. All we want to do is draw the square shape. So if I look at it from my perspective, and yours will be a little different because you're looking at it from the camera at a slightly different angle than mine. But from my perspective, I see that box. I see the bottom of that box coming in right about here. And I see it not going in a straight line across the canvas, but coming a slightly downward line like this. So I'm not going to worry about how long that is right now. I'm just going to try to get the angle of that line in correctly. And now I see the top of the box, and it's coming off up about here, somewhere like this. So I'm going to get that line just about where it is. And proportionately, I look at the size of my ball, and I look at the size of the box, and I want to try to get the proportion about the same. Now, here's an important tip about perspective. The line that I'm going to draw on the top has to be parallel to the line that I drew down here. So as closely as I can, I'm going to draw that parallel line down below. So now I've got one side, I got a top and a bottom. I just have to figure out now where this corner meets. So I'm looking very carefully, I'm studying the objects, and I'm trying to decide basically how far I should go out. So it looks like something like about here. I'm going to go right about here. Now remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is called representational art. So what we're trying to do is represent what we see. It's not a photograph, it's a representation. All right, so I've got my front side pretty well marked in. Now I want to work toward my back. I see that that back line is going off this way in this direction a bit like this. And it doesn't go very far. If you look, you can see it's not going very far. Now this side over here is going to go off in the same way. And it looks like it's a little bit longer. The reason why it looks like it's a little bit longer is because that side is closer to us than this side is. So I make it just a slight bit longer. Now I can draw the top part. The top part is going to roughly approximate the bottom part. It's going to be off a little bit because this side is a little shorter than this side. And that's called perspective. In perspective, what I could do in perspective is I could draw a line straight out here like this, right here, and this line could go straight out here like this, and it would keep going until those two lines finally meet out here somewhere, and that's called your vanishing point. And that's a lesson in perspective, but we're not going to be that concerned about perspective right now. All right, so now I've got the front and the top. I just need to finish this side. So this line and this line are going to be roughly parallel. They're going to be about the same size and shape. And I'm going to mark it off here lightly. And then now I can connect the top to the bottom. I can connect the top to the bottom. And these lines here should be parallel. They should look parallel to one another. So I got the top and the bottom. So, all right, so I've got my two first objects sort of roughed in. And I know a little bit about where they are and how they stand and how they look. All right, so now I'm going to take the next object, which I see, which is the tall round can. And it doesn't, for me, from my perspective, it doesn't start in the middle of that ball. It starts off to the side a little bit. So I'm going to start off on the side a little bit. And what I'm looking at here too is not just the shape that I'm drawing and the shape that I'm drawing, those are positive shapes. But the space in between is called a negative shape. And that negative shape is a shape. It's a shape, just as much as the positive shape is a shape. It's important that we get those negative spaces and negative shapes right too. So I'm going to draw my line up here. Now I know this can is taller than the box, a little bit taller than the box. So I'm going to get it up there. Now I look down at the bottom. I want to see the bottom of that can. And it doesn't start at the bottom of the round shape, but it's back a little bit and it's curved a little bit. So I can draw in a curved round shape like that. All right. Now, the tricky part here is where the smaller can and the big can come together. I can see that my smaller can, the bottom for my smaller can, is about the same place as the bottom of the ball is. So I can just extend that line over lightly to know where it is, where the bottom is. And I can see that the side of that can covers the big can just a little bit from my perspective. And it also comes down a little bit from the bottom of that big can. And then it starts to go in a circle around. So we know it's a circle, but we're not drawing a circle. We're drawing what is an oval shape. So I'm going to draw that oval shape over here. Now, in reality, what I know is that the can goes out on the other side. It goes out on the other side like this. If I could see through the can, I would see the other side looking like this. And so that's kind of an oval shape. But that's okay. We can erase that out later. So that gives me about the approximate shape of that can. And now I can start to draw that can sides up. Now I haven't finished the big top yet because I need to get this can drawn. I need to get it in the way here. So I'm going to draw it up and I can see that it goes up quite a ways. It goes up above the ball quite a bit. And it also goes up more than halfway of the big can. All right. So I'm going to draw this other side up to match it. Okay, I'm just making light sketching marks. So now what I did here on the bottom with the circle part thing, I can do that on the top. But let me start with the back first. Let me get the back in. So we know that the back is kind of round like this, like that. And now we can see that it comes around the front like this. Nice oval shape to that can. All right, so now I've got 1, 2, 3 things spaced in, and that's going to help me to finish the last thing. So the last can goes past this round can just a little bit, and it comes up about like that. Now I do the same thing on the top here. I can see that it's round. I do the round part here on the top first, and then I want to do a mirror image of that round top on the bottom part. Like this. All right. All right. Now, just for fun, I'll draw in the lid, which comes in underneath it. We're not really concerned about actually drawing everything on these cans. We want to basically draw the shape. So now I have pretty much proportionately where I need to be. I think actually, when I look at it, I've made this box a little wider than it should be compared to the rest of the picture. So what I'm going to do to fix it is I will draw another line over here. I will draw this line over here. So I want to cut that side down a bit. Now I can erase what I've done here. Let me use this kneaded eraser. It works better. I can erase what I've done here. And which means that I probably want to bring in the back a little bit. So this is okay when you're working on drawing. You will find that you will edit things and you will correct them as you go. All right. So now I've got this better where I want it. I can make this line now. I can make this line over here. I can make this line here on the bottom. Now I can join the side. All right, so that looks size-wise better than it was before. All right, so now what I've done simply is rough in and get the proportions about where I want. Remember, we're only working on drawing shapes here, so we're not really going to be concerned about details a whole lot. So now that I've got everything roughed in, I can go back over with my pencil really and make the nice hard strokes the way that I want it to be, to really show this up so that you can see it, so that I can see it, so everybody can see it. So now I'm just going to sketch in my hard shapes. And this is called line drawing. Line drawing. All right. So now maybe you can see, I don't know if you can see it. I will show you when I'm all done for sure what I have created. But I got a nice hard line here. All right. Clean it up a bit. All right. So that's my circle. Now I can work on my can, my cylinder shape. We call that a cylinder shape. I got a nice line there. I got a nice line here. And then I'm going to draw the front. I'm not going to draw the back on the bottom because we don't actually see the back on the bottom. We only see the front. All right. Now I'll come up. I'll go right around the top. And I'll come around the front because we do see the front. All right. Now I can draw the shape behind it, which is the big tall cylinder can. And I will draw the lid this time. Draw the lid. Draw the top. It's that's an oval shape. Do just like we did the other can, come around the front with it. All right, I got 3 of the 4 objects there. Now all I have to do is finish off my last object, which is this box. That's easy to do. We got nice straight lines there. Nice straight lines. So we're all stuck indoors. We can't go out. We can't get together. I can't have drawing lessons with my granddaughter Rose. But if you get bored and you want something to do and you want to learn how to improve a skill or develop a skill that you don't have, then I offer you the opportunity with our art lessons to be able to do that. All right, so now I've got my sketches in. I can go back with my erasers and I can clean up all the marks that I don't want to be in the drawing. The initial sketchy marks that I made to begin with, I can take them right out with my eraser and clean that up all nicely. Now in this exercise, we're not going to worry about tone or shadows or anything like that. We're just learning how to do a line drawing and a representational line drawing. All right, so I've finished. And when you finish your piece of art, you always want to put your signature on it. I'm going to put my special signature on it. And we like to also put a date. If you've drawn or created something, I like to put a date. I'm just going to put the year underneath here, 2020. All right, so that is our exercise for the day. What happened? That is our exercise for the day. I hope you didn't lose me there. All right, so that's what I have created as a line drawing for today. All right, well, thank you for coming to my studio today and having an art lesson. Remember, practice social distancing, hand washing, being very careful, be very safe. Let's not let any of us get sick. We're going to get through this somehow. God bless and keep you all until we see each other again.